Hello there. My name is Dr. Salim Javed. I'm an associate professor at the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication at Lingia's Lalita Devi Institute of Management and Sciences. We have been talking about different story formats. We have been talking about it for a long time. Under the title of Understanding Cinema, we have talked about how a hero, starts a journey, completes his journey, and we have been talking about Michael Hawke's six-stage plot structure in last few videos. And if you can see on your screen, it is always about from 0 to 10%, which is called setup, from 10% to 20%, which is called new situation, from 25% to 50%, which is called progression, and then from 50% to 75% is called complications and higher stakes, and then from 75% to 90% it's called final push, and from 90 or 99% to 100% it's called aftermath. We have covered setup, new situation, progression, complication. Till here we have completed, which means that we have completed turning point 1, turning point 2, turning point 3, and we have finished up to turning point 4, which is all about major setback. Now, I was in talking terms with one of the faculty members from New York Film School, and I was talking to him that how do you teach, what special do you teach, what special do you offer to your students. And very interestingly, he talked about a lot of terminology which I have been discussing in this series, and then I realized, yes, this is something which is worth studying. Now, what is the purpose of studying all these story formats? Why? What is the need? If you are a student of mass communication, you are reading a lot of other things also. You are reading research also. You are reading ethics also. Then development communication, a lot of other things. Then what is the need for this particular thing called story format, which technically falls in the preview of film appreciation or filmmaking per se, if I may say so. Whereas a lot of colleges at graduation level do not offer proper training in film studies. Now, there has been a very genuine campaign. There has been a very genuine complaint that the kind of web series we have been seeing, though they are very interesting, a lot of Bollywood films we have been seeing, we are witnessing a very lackluster content. The reason is that it is not taught as a discipline at most of the places. Now think of that, the entire, lot of students, lot of audience, almost all people, those who constitute audience, complain about the lackluster content. Now that is a very genuine complaint, but what are we doing for that? Are we training people to write better? Are we training, or are we helping them understand the nuances of writing? Are we helping them understand how to create a wonderful scene? Today I will discuss 2-3 examples, which is basically one of the films from The Replaceable Killer, which was released in 1998. Chow Yun-fat was the protagonist in that film, and I'll give you that how the scenario of writing has evolved over the decades. Now, suppose if, for the sake of recap, if we understand that what we see, I asked you to watch these 2 films called Erin Brockovich and Gladiator, which I hope that you have already seen, so that if you have seen the film, then it will help you understand what I'm talking about and how the narration is meandering beneath the white branches of chestnut trees. It's an expression. Let's see how it develops. So if you have seen the film, you know that Erin Brockovich, when the film opens, Erin Brockovich is unemployed. She is a single mother. She is at a very disadvantaged position. And if you see Gladiator film, then the film starts with a epic scene of a battle where the Roman Empire is proceeding, and there is a general called Maximus, who is a successful, who is successfully leading the force to triumph in their final battle. Now, if you look at the turning point 1, now this is what happens, the turning point, understanding the strength of Michael Hawke's 6th stage is that it talks about turning point. So the uniqueness of this story format is basically its turning point. So turning point is always, let's see that if you are writing the introduction part or the beginning part or the setup part of the story, the turning point is basically the conclusion of that entire scene. Now, as I have been giving you example of Erin Brockovich and Gladiator, so what happens in Erin Brockovich is that Erin, all the turns and twists leads that she is working for Ed Mesri, and in Gladiator, that the battle is won. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor, calls Maximus and says that I want you to direct, I want you to lead the entire army. Now, what happens in Turning Point 2? Turning Point 2 is basically Erin Brockovich is rehired, so there is a lot of things happening. So now Turning Point 2 will be a conclusion of, suppose next, if it is 120 pages, then next at least 20 pages. Now, what the development we are leading is basically Erin Brockovich is rehired by Ed Mesri. So something must have happened, that she has been expelled. Then Ed Mesri, there must have been some need that Ed Mesri comes and rehires her. In the film Gladiator, the protagonist Maximus comes to know that his family has been killed and burnt. Now, what happens in Turning Point 3? This is a recap. Okay, in what happens in Turning Point 3, that the Erin Brockovich, the character Erin, and Ed Mesri, takes the initiative to initiate a legal proceeding, depict the potential risk of having their case dismissed by the presiding judge. Such a dismissal would effectively eliminate any possibility of reaching a settlement. So she was initially in Turning Point 1, she was hired. There must have been some incidents. Then she was rehired in Turning Point 2, and in Turning Point 3, Erin Brockovich is going and meeting people, convincing them, putting a case together, and now there is a proceeding for that, and in that proceeding, chances of the case being rejected is really high. So that is how it has been part of Turning Point 1, Turning Point 2, Turning Point 3. And in Gladiator, what happens that Gladiator, the protagonist Maximus, makes his way to Rome as with a resolute intention of garnering the favor of audience as a gladiator. So think of an army general who has led his army, his troops successfully, won the battle. He is being offered the crown. He says, no, I am all right. I am going back home. His son thinks that he is a potential, candidate. So he tries to kill him, and then he then kills his entire family. Not only kills but burns also. And then out of under the sheer burden of the guilt, he is being again captured and put in an arena where he becomes a gladiator. He comes to know that there is an event coming in Rome where he can go and reclaim everything. At this juncture, protagonist must dedicate himself or herself to the pursuit of their objective wholeheartedly until this juncture. She, then comes the Turning Point 4, and up till here we have, covered up till Turning Point 4. That in Erin Brockovich, what happens? She puts the case together for the proceedings, and there was a chance of losing or not being registered as a case in the film. So in Turning Point 4, what happens, which is called the major setbacks, which is the 75% of the film, where till this point we have talked about, and that how George leaves Erin, and Erin is being tried to subsided by the new entry, and the Maximus, as he gains popularity and claims with the with the antagonist that I'm the father of the murdered wife, I'm the father of the murdered son, I'm the husband of the murdered wife, and I'm here to take my revenge. So when he declares it, people of Rome comes to know what's going on, and the Senate, all those people, they know that he has been a very good general, and he tries to meet the leader of the senators in coming events. Meanwhile, Commodus, the antagonist, devise a scheme to eliminate both Maximus and the Senates. Now 75% means that if 2-hour film has got 120 pages, so 75% means that your 90 pages are over. 90 pages is a huge work, and that too, that you are keeping the interest of audience and giving them incident after incident more interesting than the last one. So 90 pages means the 75% of the screenplay, where protagonists must transpire, effectively conveying the spectator a sense of impending doom, of hopelessness. As in the film As Good As It Gets, this is a, if you get a chance, you must see this film, As Good As It Gets. Carol terminates her relationship with Melvin. Now similarly, at this juncture, in the film Matrix, Morpheus is captured. Morpheus is captured, and then additionally, any Red proclaims Sleepless in Seattle. Sleepless in Seattle is a thing of the past. In crafting romantic comedies like Working Girl or What Women Want, all these films like what I'm talking about, Sleepless in Seattle, I'll be talking about Schindler's List also. When that example will come, then I'll tell you how important it is for a film student to see these films. I gave a lot of examples of Hindi films also, some Tamil, Telugu, like I wanted to see Thiruda Thiruda, but I was not able to see that in Delhi because obviously that sort of an audience is not, that sort of a film was not very popular 10 or 15 years back, but today if you want to see, Bahubali is just an example which was dubbed in Hindi and shown in Delhi also, and it was houseful. I've seen it with my own eyes. So films like Sleepless in Seattle or Working Girl or What Women Want, these are wonderful films. Look, writing, one of the best part about writing is that a lot of people ask me, sir, how should we start writing? The very simple answer of this is start watching. Then a lot of permutation combination happens in your mind, and you always get a very unique starting, something unique to start with. I was, in talking terms, the guy that I was talking about who teaches in New York Film School. So when I was in conversation with him, then I said that the hardest thing in the world is a blank paper. That is one of the hardest things in the world is a blank paper, and it becomes very, very difficult to write your first sentence. And you will understand when you will sit down with a piece of paper and a pen, and you have your story in your mind, but you will look, your brain will give you 1,000 options to start writing, but you are looking one best possibility, one best sentence to start with. Obviously, you will be writing indoor, interior, exterior, day, night, all that, or cut to or dissolve to, all those things that is technical part of the screenplay writing. But writing that very first line, that something like the breeze, a wild breeze is blowing over the mountains, and reaching, and the camera pans, and you see two of your characters on a small hillock. To come up with something like this is very visual, and when you start seeing films, you always have very good reference in your mind, and that particularly those things which is like there in your mind somewhere, they always help you to write better. So all these examples like Sleepless in Seattle or Working Girl or What Women Want, it is at this juncture that the protagonist's deceit is unveiled. Now 75%, if you see all these three films, and by the time your 90 pages are over, whatever plan that the protagonist was working with is being revealed, and he is like technically exposed, and Commodus is also exposed, Maximus is also exposed, Erin Brockovich, doesn't matter whether it is her fault or not, she is also like, if she is not exposed, she is witnessing those sort of feelings, leading to the dissolution of the romantic relationship, or whatever, plans you have up till this point. That hero, the protagonist of the story, be that male or female, has been thinking that they can get out of it, but at this point of time, they realize that things are out of their hand. Now, why it is important for you to realize your character, because you are a writer now, because you are writing a character now, why it is important for you to realize your character, that whatever smartness, whatever street smartness that he was dealing with, whatever wonderful works, whatever wonderful deeds he or she has been doing, but there is a dead road ahead. Now, what is the need for this sort of an equation at 75% of a screenplay? The catastrophic occurrence, the catastrophic occurrences forces the protagonist to consider just a single course of action. Now, why is it important? In terms of writing. Now, in terms of writing, it is important because after this section, now only 25% of the screenplay is left. Now you have to squeeze, because you have to now do away whatever sense your protagonist, a sense of victory or sense of planning or events he has or she has in her mind. Now you need to squeeze the entire, stream of thoughts. Reason being, because now you are moving towards climax, or now whatever has been the course of action in your story. Whatever street smartness your characters, or whatever learnings your characters have been having in the story, now you have to channelize all that, just for a singular course of action, because that singular course of action will lead your protagonist or the hero of the story to the desired event also that your audience has been waiting for last 1.5 hours, if it is a 2-hour film. Now, have this thing in your mind, because it will help you, really help you when you are writing your story. Why do we write? Like a lot of, what is the need to write? What is the need to, even have stories? You put that in script, you put that in screenplay, you write novels, you write short stories, you write novella, and what is the need? I'll be talking about this very particular point as this discussion goes on. Now, the protagonist is unable to revert back to his previous lifestyle depicted at the commencement of the film. Now, this is something very interesting, because this exactly happens at the 75% of the screenplay. Now, suppose I give you an example which is very interesting. There is a film, as I said in the beginning of the lecture, as I said, the alternative, or this killer thing, the alternative killer that I was talking about, which has got Chung Yun Fat in this. This is a guy who was in Crouching Dragon and Hidden Dragon. If you are not able to recall him, it's a 1998 film. The Replaced Killer is, I think, is the name of the film. Now, what happens? The film starts. There is a drug deal going on. One police inspector comes. He interrupts the drug deal and he kills the bad guy. I'm telling you what this 75, that you can't, the protagonist is unable to revert back to his previous lifestyle depicted at the commencement of the film. Now I'm explaining this specific point. Now, fine, as the story progresses, we come to know that he is the son of a person who technically controls the entire city. So he is a big mafia. He was the guy who was killed by inspector, was the son of a big mafia. Now, obviously, because if he is a son of big mafia, there is a funeral going on, and all the gang members of that mafia are there at the burial ground, and inspector also comes. As they are crossing, the Don looks at the inspector and says, he just looks at him, and the inspector says, "I'm here to pay my respect." Now the dialogue is, he says, "You're here to pay the respect to a father whose son has been killed? You're here to pay respect for my grandson whose father has been killed? What you are here for? Paying respect? This is what you call respect?" You know, I mean, because I was seeing that film for the first time, I was like, dude, they have written something good, very interesting also. So there is where at this particular specific point of time, so they hire a killer, the alternative killer that the film titles. He has been hired to kill the inspector. He goes and he takes his sniper with him. He aims, but he does not kill. If he kills, his job is done, story will not proceed. Because he has not killed, the story proceeds. And there is where the protagonist is unable to revert back to his previous lifestyle depicted at the commencement of the film means. Thank you very much.